All today I wanna talk about a poem which contains a big meaning to our society. Richard Cory, which was written by the poet Edwin Arlington Robinson. We all know that Edwin Arlington Robinson was an American poet who was born on December 22, 1869. He is known for his insightful and often dark poems which explores the themes of isolation, despair, and the human conditions in that society when the Robinson was alive. Robinson's works gained the recognition during early 20th century, and it became one of the most leading poets of his time. Robinson poetry, as I told you earlier, often focused on the life of the ordinary people in the small town and the ordinary people who were living in the small town called in America, and he was praised for his ability to capture the complex emotions and struggles of the characters. We all know that here in this poem also the poet Robinson gives the point of view of the people who are in the payment, whose financial condition and whose social status is very low, and it it emphasizes that Robinson always captures the people who are in low condition and who are in the small town living with low financial status. His most of the famous poem, is Richard Cory, was published in 1897 and remains one of the best known works. Edwin Arlington Robinson passed away on April 6th, 1935, at the age of 65. His introduction to explore of the human conditions and the ability to convey the deep emotions through the simple poem, have give the fame to this poet as a well-known American writer. And here the Richard Cory is a poem which is which is conducted by the simple language and simple thoughts, which makes this poem as thought-provoking poem, which offers a critical analysis of our human conditions and the perception of wealth and happiness and the impact of the money in our life and how it can make the man and break the man at the same time. And when we examine this contrasts between Richard Cory's outward appearance and the success in his life, the poet in this poem, it was clearly depicted by the amazing language and the amazing simple use of this poem. The poem begins by describing Richard Cory as a wealthy and respected man admired by all the people who are around him. Here, the Richard Cory comes as a celebrity who is well known and who has a glory in that area and who is respected as a godlike figure. The town people view him as a epitome of perfection, emphasizing the behaviors and the qualities of the material possession. Here, we can understand that the Richard Cory is a man who is very famous and who is very authority character in that town. But when we analyze the hidden purpose, we all understand that he has some money. Even though he has money, he has a very big good quality, and even though he is full of money, he has ground to earth attitude as well. But the most major thing which influence in his life is money, which gives the um, authoritative personality to this amazing man called Richard Cory. And however, the poem talks sudden turn in the final stanza, revealing that the poet, the person Richard Cory, ultimately takes his own life in a dark way. This unexpected twist challenged the readers to understand the perception and our reality, which kept our life, which has which contrast our life, and which is very opposite in that meaning. It serves as reminds that appearance can be deceiving, and the materialistic wealth does not necessarily adequate for a man to have an inner satisfaction in his life. And wealth is not a thing which the man need to have to live a healthy life with satisfaction. The critical analysis of Richard Cory is something deeper, which emphasizes that in the latter part, the Richard Cory died because of his fate. We can't tell that it is a fate. It is Uh, something which is something opposite to the poem. We can understand that in the first part of the poem, the Richard Cory um, is has a glory which makes him very authoritative, and he is very skillful person in the yes, skillful person among the readers, and he's a most um, rich figure among the people in that payment. But at the latter part, we can understand that he he did the suicide in the afternoon, which symbolizes his inner turmoil. The poem raises the questions about the nature of success and the limitation of the material wealth in proving the genuine fulfillment. It suggests that the social perception of wealth and happiness can mislead us, and it leads us the dangerous cycle, and it it leads us to the path of the danger and darkness. Moreover, the poem underscores the theme of loneliness and isolation, which is the most talkable part in the poem. Even though the Richard Cory was admired by the people in the payment and have the full respect among the people, and when the people saw Richard Cory, they split heart pulse. He feels something isolated, and he feels something. He feels the loneliness with him, because people see him as a celebrity. People didn't see him as a friend. So I think it creates the loneliness and isolation feeling in the Richard Cory's mindset. Richard Cory, despite his social standing, despite all the solitary figures separated from the rest of the town people, the phrase richer than a king emphasizes his elevated status, but it is also highlights the emotional distance between him and others. Here, the hyperbole was used to underestimate the character's wealthy power. We all know that the king is the most richest person in one's country, but here the Richard Cory is portrayed as a person who is richer than a king, who has a wealthy perceptions which is richer than a king. But according to the latter part, we can understand that wealth is not a reason to live. Wealth is not a thing which leads us a happy full life. The isolation, when we talk about the isolation, is likely a contributing factor to this tragic fate, and it suggests as a lack of genuine human connections and support. Even though the Richard Cory has power and has a money which is richer than a king, he didn't seem to have any connection between the people in the payment or people around him, and this leads him to take some unexpected decision and which leads him to attempt the suicide in the latter part of this poem. Richard Cory is also notable for its use of irony, which is we can understand that this poem is full of irony and it was built by the satirical tone. The stark contrast between Richard Cory's external appearance and the internal struggles creates a sense of irony that leaves the readers questioning their provisional notions about success and happiness. Here, the success and happiness are contributed, and the failures also suggested here, but we can understand that people in the according to the beginning part of this poem, people think that the Richard Cory is full of many materialistic wealth and he achieved the thing, and people think that Richard Cory is a achiever who can achieve the things which the people in the payment can't achieve, and it is his success as well. But this success is didn't help him to survive in this life. This success didn't help him to live his life, and um, did not help him to see his life in a different way. And this theme also Arlington, Robinson, Richard Cory, as I told you earlier, it gives the inner perceptions, and it gives the point of view of the people who are in the payment. Though the tragic tale of the Richard Cory, the poem challenges the readers to look beyond the surface level of our appearance and of surface level of the people. It talks about many individuals' happiness and the fulfillments in the life as well. And it gives the poignant reminder that true happiness and fulfillment cannot be measured by materialistic possessions or the social status. As I told you earlier, here the Richard Cory is surviving with the money. We can understand that the people who have uh, much money is can't live a satisfactory life, as they all have to be worried about their materialistic position. But when we see the people who have less money and full of fulfillment, they can lead a skillful life and cheerful life, um, which emphasizes this theme as well. And the poem is narrated by a member of a small town's community who holds Richard Cory as in a high regard. Richard Cory is described as a man of wealth and sophistication, positions, and all the attributes that the town people admires and aspire to have. Here, the Richard Cory is an idol for the people who are in the payment. He is depicted as someone who is perfect to envy the way of both terms in the physical appearance and his demon. When we analyze that, even though not, Richard Cory not only inspires the people by his appearance, but also inspires the people by his mentality. Even though he has many big power in the society, he has authority power. He he's he behaves with others in a down-to-earth manner, which gives the Richard Cory, which gives the power of the Richard Cory as very high. However, the poem takes a surprising turn in the final stanza, revealing that Richard Cory, despite has apparent uh, idle life, one calm summer night went home and put a bullet through his head. This unexpected turn shocks the readers and challenges the internal perception of Richard Cory's happiness and contentment. It highlights the stark contrast between the public image and the internal struggle he faced. Even though the public see his appearance, they can't understand his inner feelings and inner suffering. So we can understand that the this poem is full of ironical tone, which talks about the Richard Cory's outer life and the inner life. um, and furthermore, the poem highlights the theme of alienation and the potential loneliness that can accompany our life to be a privileged person. We all know that most privileged persons are have a lonely lifestyle because of their position and because of their power. But but in my opinion, it can't give a cheerful life to them. They have always think about their position, and they have to lead a stressful life. But the people who are uh, covered by many people and have the connection with many others in the town can lead a bright life, because they can access many things and they can access whatever they want. And even though they have to face any sorrows, they can share them with the people who are around them. But when we analyze the people who have privileged and captured by the loneliness, they may not have any alternatives to share their emotions, feelings with other people in the town, which lead them a stressful life. And even though the poet Robinson didn't give any reason for the Richard Cory's uh, tragic end, we can identify that his lonely life, which privileged life, which leads him to this tragic end. As Richard, even though Richard Cory is respected among the people, he didn't he made didn't have any alternatives to share his emotions with others, which lead him to the stressful life and the tragicful end. And here, the Richard Cory in this poem portrayed as a solitary figure detached from the rest of the town people. The isolation may continue to his internal struggles and feelings of despair. It serves as a reminder that genuine human connections and emotional support can essential to be live a true happiness, a true and cheerful life, which ups our social status. As I told you earlier, we have to understand that the right emotional support is very essential for our living, which is lacked in Richard Cory's life. Emotional support. When we lose our emotional support, we started to struggle in our life. We started to feel loneliness, and I think it is the reason why it must be the reason why Richard Cory attempt the suicide in the end of this poem. In conclusion, Richard Cory offers a critical analysis of our social perceptions and danger of idealing others, danger of judging the people, which reminds the proverb that don't judge the book by its cover. Yeah, it's true that when we have to understand the book, we have to read the whole book. We can't judge the book by its cover, because sometimes the book's cover is cheap, but the things which and one by their heart, not by their appearance. And furthermore, Richard Cory criticizes the uh, ability of the society who can't disability of the society to understand the people's psychology feeling. The town people idolized Corey solely because his material wealth and social status are falling to see the internal struggles to fulfill their needs cannot be determined by the external forces of success and the deep rooted of the emotion. Here, the Richard Cory, even though the Richard Cory is portrayed full of a wealthy person with a materialistic power who gains success, people think that it is the thing which they have to be happy, but no any success can't make Richard Horry happy, as he's struggling with the inner turmoil. The use of the irony in the poem also criticized the elements of our appearance versus the reality, which is the major theme talks in many poems in our literature, great literature novel. And moreover, the poem shows the chasm between our reality and perception, to warn the people never to judge some people by their appearance. And it talks about we have to think before we have to judge someone, which subverts our expectations in the latter part of this poem. Even though this poem was written in a 4 quatrains, this poem has much meaning, as it contains a meaningful message to our society, which many people can't understand still in their lifetime. Many people think that money can buy happiness, but I think that money is not a according to this poem, I think that money is not a thing which brings happiness. Our inner fulfillment and the good connection between our society gives the happiness in our life. And when we analyze the title of this poem, we can understand that the title of the poem is something allusion, which allude the King Richard, who is a king in England. King in England, to attribute the power and the materialistic possession to the person who is described as Richard Cory in this poem. Here, the poem talks about our real happiness. We can understand that the famous quote says that money can buy home, but not money can buy house, but not home, and money can buy the bed, but not sleep. So we have to understand that our own satisfaction is everything, and money is a fame which captures our human world and which corrupted our human world, and which keeps our human will far away from the true emotions and true understanding. When we analyze the dictions in the poem, we can understand that the diction glitter also shows the position of the Richard Cory, who glitters in among the society as a richful figure who has many materials associations, who wears watch and jewelries, but even though he has full of jewelries, he can't live a happy, full, cheerful life like other people in that society, which subverts our expectations and gives the readers a big meaning that don't judge anyone by their appearance. Appearance always deceives us, and what we hear or see in the society will mislead us. Even though people have the uh, talent to understand the appearance of the Richard Cory, they can't understand the psychological fact of the Richard Cory, which we have to develop our skill to understand the psychological facts of other people uh, to get a good relationship with others. As many people are masking their true identity, we can in this modern world we can't understand any people's true emotions and true feelings, which is the notable thing highlighted in this poem. Thank you for hearing.
Thank you, Arinavi, for your wonderful presentation. Next, I would like to call Pradayini to talk about the Lambarong by Saki. Let's give the side to Pradayini.
Good evening, all of you. Today I am going to talk about The Lumber Room by Sahi. The Lumber Room by Sahi is a short story written by an outstanding British novelist and the short story writer called Hector Q. Monroe. It indicates Sahi's childhood experience and his real experience. Here, autobiographical elements are used in this prose. Unfortunately, he lost his parents and lived with his aunt. It is one of the unpleasant experiences of Sahi's life because parents are the real lovers of a child. Parental love is the only love that have truly selfless one, but children are naughty by nature, and they like to touch, handle, and they do something. But these things are restricted by his aunt because his aunt is arrogant woman. She doesn't give freedom to the boy, so it creates sympathy to the boy. In this prose, protagonist is Nicholas. Protagonist means the hero of the story is Nicholas, and the children were driven to beach at Jackborough. But Nicholas was not to be at the trip. It is his punishment because he do something wrong. That morning breakfast is wholesome bread and milk, but he didn't eat that. He said there is a frog in his milk and bread, but the aunt said, nonsense, how is it possible? And she scolded him, but again and again he refused to eat that wholesome bread and milk. In this prose, the narrator used older and wiser to aunt, to adjective as if elders always think what they know are correct. In the beginning of the story, Nicholas is apart from other children. It suggests that he is not only different from them, but also is more important and interesting person in this prose. The Lumber Room is set in early 20th century England. It is the time when children were expected to always be on their best behavior unquestionably obey adults. But the story's protagonist, Nicholas, goes against the grain of this expectation. Throughout the story, Sahi is critical of the aunt and describes her as being a small-minded bully rather than an adult worthy of respect and deference. When the story opens, Nicholas' cousins and younger brother are going to beach, but Nicholas is not allowed them because he is in disgrace. Here, the diction disgrace is emphasize the reputation and reputation. In contrast, the children in the story are portrayed in a much more sympathetic manner. For instance, when Nicholas tells him aunt that one of the children, Bobby will not enjoy at the beach because his boots are too tight. The aunt is surprised to hear it. Nicholas says, he told you twice, but you were not listening. You often don't listen when we tell you important things. While the Nicholas wants the aunt to stand guard. They are Nicholas is a quick-witted boy, and he comes up with very creative ideas to escape from the rebel against that aunt. In this story, Sahis upholds the boy's fantastic imagination and source of humor and wonder. Additionally, the lumber room is described as a region that was so carefully sealed from youth eyes and considering while no questions were ever answered. Sahi implies that adults fun and imagination to a room kept under lock and key in order to achieve a sense of orderedness. The aunt is the antagonist of the story, and she is very harsh. She gave harsh punishment for children. The image on the tapestry discovers in the lumber room becomes a symbol for the story's conflict between wildness and propriety. In the story, where Nicholas is in deep through finding the possibilities of what might have happened to the huntsman and the hounds. Thank you for
Thank you, Pradhani, for your wonderful presentation. Next, I would like to call Sadhujika to talk about the Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. So let's see how she's analyzing this one.
Good evening to you all. Today I am talking about the poem The Eagle. This poem has been written by Alfred Tennyson in the Victorian era. We can speak about the poem. This poem published 1851 by Alfred Tennyson. This poem has two stanzas separate out into two sets of three lines. We go to the poem line by line. The first line of the first stanza, he clasped the crag with hooked hands. He's a subject pronoun. So